being on the same panel.
Yes, likewise. Thank you.
Didžiausias traumatologas, kad tave prižiūrėtų. Gerai? Ne. Tai žiūrėk, palaikom ryšį, aš tau po kažkiek laiko. Arba tu parašyk, skaidrą turi.
Yet, not anybody.
I really would like, on the 27th.
Okay. Yep. Well, welcome to the last panel discussion of today. The two priorities of the declaration we would like to discuss are ring-fence ERN funding under the 28 to 34 multi-annual financial framework. And second one is prioritize the EU action plan on rare diseases with a clear governance unifying the rare disease stakeholders community. So I have an esteemed panel sitting here. So first, Sonata Jamelaite, advisor to the President of the Republic of Lithuania. I'm not sure if I pronounce your name fully correctly, but please bear with me. Then we have Enrique Terol, who is actually the, I would say, the father of the ERNs, and I don't need to introduce him, I guess. Now he is health attaché to the permanent representation of Spain to the European Union. Ruth Ladenstein, you met already, fellow ERN coordinator. Then we have Vincent Pirat from Sanofi, therefore responsible for global medical affairs, rare diseases, and we have Alberto Pera, also fellow ERN coordinator of ERN from Amsterdam University Hospital. So I will giving you a few setting the scene remarks, and then we will be discussing 4 questions, and I get to the questions as soon as I'm done with my introductory remarks. So again, I'm taking the perspective of an ERN coordinator, and I'm not delivering a policy lecture. What I want to share is what ERN's doing today for patients, where we are failing them still, and how an EU action plan and the next multi-annual financial framework can turn today's success into a sustainable European ecosystem for rare diseases. So when I meet families in my rare disease center, so the one I lead, they rarely use words like rare disease policy, of course. They tell me about years of uncertainty, of traveling from specialist to specialist, and of watching their child losing function while waiting for diagnosis. In Europe, and you are fully aware of that number, around 30 million people live with a rare disease. That means that rare diseases are not exotic. Yet access to timely diagnosis, expert care, and innovative treatments still vary between member states and even within them. The postcode often matters more than the phenotype. This is precisely what the ERNs were created to change, and they deliver already. I think it needs to emphasize that ERNs are not Brussels projects. They are clinical networks embedded in hospitals across Europe. In my ERN, in the ERN R&D, neurologists, geneticists, radiologists, and allied health professionals from over 60 expert centers in 24 countries meet regularly, virtually, to discuss the most complex cases using the clinical management system. A child in a small country with an undiagnosed movement disorders can have their MRI, genetics, and videos viewed by experts from Paris, Tübingen, and Barcelona without leaving home. This is a core promise of the ERNs. Let knowledge travel instead of the patient. Let me give you two concrete examples. The first example I would like you to give is that we actually have developed the concept of European treatment eligibility panels. And again, it's virtual boards. And what we do is discussing and deciding actually on treatments on complex and pricey therapies. And this is really a success story. So we have a huge demand and scaling what we do really up. So we have almost weekly discussions for patients with respective therapies being done in my ERN. Second example, we are developing clinical practice guidelines like all ERNs, and we do that, for example, for multi-system atrophy, which is a rare form of Parkinson's disease. So despite this progress, our patients still encounter the same barriers again and again. We still see long distance diagnostic delays and differences in management across countries. Not all member states participate equally in the European reference networks, and many national systems lack clear referral pathways. Above all, ERNs today are built on short-term funding. Coordination centers spend too much time administering grants instead of improving care. Without a sustainable model, we risk losing exactly the infrastructure Europe has invested in. For the last 15 years or so, Europe has supported rare disease through individual regulations, programs, and projects. The Rare 2030 foresight studies went further. It called for a new European framework with concrete measurable goals: time to diagnosis, access to expert care, better outcomes. Since then, both the Council and the Parliament have called on the Commission to develop a comprehensive EU action plan on rare diseases. And many of you have also supported that, until now, without success. An action plan and a mission are not just labels. They are tools we need to align national efforts, research programs, and clinical infrastructure like ERNs behind shared targets. In my ERN, an action plan would mean then when a child with a suspected leukodystrophy is seen in Tübingen, Barcelona, or Gdansk, the health system is working towards the same European targets for diagnosis, access, outcomes, and treatment. So we have quite a few treatments actually for leukodystrophies. At policy level, it would bring DG Sancte, DG RTD, DG Connect, member states, parliament, ERNs, and patient organizations into a single governance framework with shared indicators and timelines. National plans, EU research programs, and health fundings would no longer pull in different directions. They would all contribute to a common mission, reducing time to diagnosis, increasing access to expert care, and improving outcomes for people with rare diseases. So the EU action plan should therefore not invent new structure. The ERNs delivering toward these targets already. It should put ERNs at the heart of its implementation and systematically involve rare disease patient organizations as full partners in governance and in the design of indications. At present, and that's really a major limitation, ERNs are funded like short projects, not like healthcare infrastructures. Coordination units depend on time-limited grants, with hospitals contributing staff and time without secure long-term co-funding. For registry, data infrastructure, cross-border care pathways, this is critical. These require a really long-term perspective and funding. Without predictable multi-annual funding, you cannot retain the project managers, data managers, and coordinators who make virtual boards, registry, and guidelines actually work. So we see that already, that based on the project nature of the events, we see people leaving, and with that, getting lost or losing actually substance of the events. The ongoing negotiations on the 28 to 34 multi-annual financial framework are for us a once-in-a-decade opportunity. Several stakeholders, including Eurodis, the European Society of Human Genetics, etc., are asking for an explicit, sustained funding for events and related infrastructure. The good news, and I think this is now pretty clear, that we don't have to start from scratch. So events, and I'm repeating myself, but because I really want to get across the message, events already deliver on multidisciplinary team boards, on registries, on care pathways, etc. So all of this only becomes really realistic long-term if events have stable, ring-fenced funding and are recognized in the EU Action Plan as core implementation tools. And I close here with my remarks. I think I got across my points, and I now turn to the 4 questions we would like to discuss. So we have, as said, 2 priorities we would like to discuss. Next slide, please, with the questions. Yeah, there we go. So the question we would like to discuss are the following. What are the benefits of having an EU action plan and missions on rare diseases, and what would be the impact? Second, how can the EU maximize the impact of EU research and innovation programs on rare diseases, especially through the next multi-annual financial framework? This is the one from 28 to 34. Third, what concrete initiatives should be prioritized for scaling cross-border healthcare, clinical trials, and translational research? And fourth and last, how can ring-fencing funding for the events scale up cross-border healthcare, clinical trials, and translational research? So we're starting from the overarching level, from the EU Action Plan on the mission of rare diseases, and start with question 1. And Enrique, I call on you for the first question, so please.
Thank you, Holm. Good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here, of course, with all of you. So today we had the opportunity to listen to brilliant speakers that were giving us a very good analysis of the current political, technical, financial landscape. And also we have analyzed with different perspectives, which has been the major projects or the major elements that have been developed in the European Union on rare diseases and on European reference networks. So I will say that it's impressive what we got in the last 2 decades related with this is impressive. So I think that we should celebrate that. But, and always there is a but, do we have a vision? Do we have common targets? Do we have indicators? Do we have a system to evaluate what we are doing? I don't know what's your impression, but I will say that not so far. Not so far. So, which means that, of course, we are having, as was said this morning, a lot of dots there. And they are excellent dots, like the European reference networks, like could be the Joint Action Jardin, like it is Orphanet, like it is the Erdera partnership. But we are not having a common approach to this. And it's like when you are planning for your family or for your life, you need a plan. You need to develop concrete elements that you want to develop, not only isolated projects. So this process on having a common action plan, it's not only a work for the Commission, it's a work of all stakeholders, and the main stakeholders here are the decision makers. The decision makers, which are the decision makers? The Parliament, the Member States, and the Commission, basically. And then we have all this community, and you are the ones who are giving the reasons, the input, the knowledge for doing that. So, but if we are not convincing the decision makers, and in this case I will start by the Commission, to put the decision makers around the table, because that's the responsibility of the Commission. It's like in my country, the Ministry of Health is not having competences in healthcare. But to have a national strategy, a national plan on something, and it's the case of rare diseases, what they are doing is sitting around the table, all the regional ministers. So, shouldn't we expect that from the Commission? To discuss which should be the common goals, which should be the common indicators, which should be the common actions. And it's very basic, it's not rocket science. It's something that will imply, of course, putting together the knowledge, the priorities that have been identified by all of you, and trying to find a common agreement. Could be not perfect, of course, but will be a plan. So, without a plan, we are on the risk of what? Of losing the capacity to maintain the current structures. And the networks are one of the structures that are, I would say, I will not be dramatic, but are at risk. Because if that's not included under a target, under a compromise of the European Union, okay, it could be that it's included under a competitive call. But I don't think so. So the network should not be a competitive call. Should be how to finance something that is quite particular. Probably that's the problem, that we are particular. We are exceptional in the sense that probably the networks are the only example of a European Union healthcare system. And for that, we don't have the tools now. The problem is that what we have is that we have the EU for Health, we will have new tools now, but it's difficult to conceptualize that. And for that, the only thing we can have is at least to maintain what we have, which are direct grants to the European reference networks with a sustainable budget for the future.
Okay, thanks, Enrique. So, okay, agreed, we need a plan. And agreed, we need the plan to de-risk the sustainability of the events. So what would be the next concrete step to make that happen? And you also named an institution which is responsible. So what would be the next concrete step to take?
So that's, it's web stream, no? I have to be very polite.
Be polite, yeah.
So we should ask, we should consider why the Commission is not listening to the Parliament, to the Member States, to the Social and Economic Committee, to the patients, to the experts. Why? Why we are not having already something in place related with an action plan or a strategy? Because so far, I haven't heard about that. So then we need to make clear to the Commission, because they have the capacity, they have the expertise, they have the, and they have also something that is very important, as I said at the beginning. They are the only one at the European Union that can sit the people around the table. And then I will say the first priority is to push my dear colleagues of the Commission, because I was the Commissioner in the past as well. We need to push them to sit and to have an interaction and to accept this and to have a deal on that.
Yeah, thanks, and apologies for pushing you, but I think this was really important and critical information. Xiang, over to you, same question.
Thank you. It will be hard to follow Enrique, of course, because I don't have the same insight experience. But so I will give a few thoughts around this action plan. And one first thing I wanted to say about the events, I was, and somebody mentioned the EUCERT, the expert group of the Commission between 2014 and 2017. So there was no events at that time. There was a group that was doing some coordination across member states. So there was also an opportunity to actually convince and have discussions with the different national groups, and that has disappeared. But we had the ERNs, and they have dramatically changed the conversation for me. So I think what I see before, there's really a before and after of having the ERNs created, getting active, both with all the work you described at the patient level, but also into the European discussion. Well, basically before we had almost no clinicians, and so we started to hear a much more expert voice. So I think that's really something that needs to be maintained. And it's clear if you look back to the history, this was really a pioneering vision to have this ERN. They're a bit isolated because it's only structure that exists like that in the European Union. But I think it has inspired a lot of other countries and all other plans outside of Europe. So one of the other points we need to consider is that there will be a global WHO plan coming, and then we'll require to have national plans and an European plan, and reference networks are part of that, not necessarily in the form like Europe has created them, but I think that's also, we cannot miss out on that opportunity, having a plan and continue to lead on that topic. It's not because we have done in the past, we have really been advancing. I think we need to keep this notion of being an example how things can be done going forward. So for me, it is really important to keep that structure going. One other thing I wanted to say about the action plan, it's really, to have a coordination strategy to deliver concrete solutions. And we heard this morning about, we do things, but as Europe, we don't necessarily communicate well about what we're doing. And I think an action plan would also be an opportunity to actually restate the opportunities in Europe around rare diseases and re-engage with a community, not talking about problems, but talking about opportunities and kind of kickstart a new conversation. And it's also important because I think what we have done with rare disease in terms of development, and we have the same numbers of, 6% of the rare disease patients only have a treatment. There's also a need to start to think about other models of development and other business models. If you want to go to the ultra rare, how do we do this? So an action plan would also be a very good way or a good moment to actually experiment new things, new solution, having conversation around that. So I think that's also an opportunity we should have. So at the end, it's really to create this coherent ecosystem, and to which everybody's aspiring, I think, at this stage.
Yeah, and I believe that ERNs should be part of this roundtable discussion to actually then come up with respective solutions. And also, I think what I heard correctly, that they change the kind of discussions along the way of how discussions are being done.
So is that a question?
Yeah, it's a question.
How they change the discussion?
Yeah.
Well, I think just things on registries, making it much more concrete about what the real challenges are, and then bringing more concrete solution how to address them. So I think for me, the ERNs in the policy discussion in Europe has really helped to make and to design those very concrete solutions that we want to be able to develop, and that was a missing element in the past.
Yeah, thank you. So we go into question 2. And question 2 is, how can the EU maximize the impact of EU research and innovation programs on rare diseases, especially through the next multi-annual financial framework? And I would like to start with you, Sonata, answering that question.
So thank you, and a pleasure to be here. So thank you, Maurizio and Vytenis, for inviting me, for having such a wonderful event. So to the question, how to maximize the impact. Actually, my answer is quite close to the discussion that is already ongoing. So first of all, we need to take a look at the other actions that are ongoing. And first of all, as I'm coming from the cancer field, and before I become an advisor to the president, I was leading research department of the National Cancer Institute. So even 10 years ago, we were already a part of the network of cancer centers. So we were like a cancer center. Now the center is approaching the accreditation for the Excellency Center. So it's like a process, and it took probably more than 10 years to prepare a nice Europe's cancer beating plan. And yeah, it led us a lot of good things, and we started to work in huge networks involving all Europe. We started to focus finances for burning topics. And we focused not only finances, but also personnel, our professionals. So, and we created like a good plan with patient-oriented objectives, with nice measurable indicators. So a lot of positive things, but still, before the initiation of Europe's cancer beating plan, it was a nice review, and it wasn't on a cancer moonshot. It was on a cancer ground shot. We were lagging at that period in competition with United States in cancer research. And the analysis showed the difference in the access to grants, in the excellency level between Central and Eastern Europe and the Western Europe. And when I now thinking about the situation where we have ongoing cancer beating plan, a lot of grants, a lot of finances, I have some doubts about whether the situation has changed. We still feel the difference. Lithuania made a lot of investments into the biotech life sector. We have new facilities, new infrastructures. We even have an MBL Partnership Institute on CRISPR-Cas, on gene editing technologies, but still lagging on the access to European grants. So what I call for the highest impact, for the collaboration, for the direct grants, where every country is involved and have an access to finances. Because for the real change, we need united efforts. So first of all, equity and collaboration, no more competition, because we need to compete not within Europe. So we need to unite our efforts. And of course, to rely on already established centers, networks, and so on, to support our center sustainability and connection with other networks that are functioning quite well in Europe. So it can be like BBM ERIC for the biobanking, 1 million genome infrastructure for gene sequencing, genome sequencing, and so on and so on. So collaboration, no competition, equity in access to resources, and active sustainable forces for the research improvement.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's more than an interesting thought that competition can actually be harmful and be not structure or enabling structure building, and also actually being introduce an inequity to some of the countries which might, for one or another reason, not have the same chances to get to grants or to build respective infrastructure. So can you elaborate a bit on this thought on why competition might be not the best way forward to actually maximize impact, and now not on cancer but rather on rare diseases?
what I saw in Europe's cancer beating plan and in mission on cancer. So some of the topics were overlapping, and what we see now on the map that it was finance infrastructures which were overlapping and still not generating what is the main thing, the benefits for the patient, the translational research. We have many meetings, many collaborations, but still lagging. I don't know if the main indicators were achieved about the survival of patients and other things.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, Alberto, same question, and if possible, I would like you to comment on the last thought as well. So this bit of harmfulness of competition on maximizing the impact of a rare disease action plan.
Okay, yes. First of all, my first plea to the Commission would be to maintain a standalone or ring-fenced pillar for health and rare disease in the next MMF, in line with what I've said, because rare disease funding should not become optional or just a second class. And we have to stand on the stage for that. Next, it's important to embed rare diseases across the entire EU strategy and not just be seen as a research niche. So rare disease is not a research niche. It needs a holistic approach which captures both research, patient care, and the unique structure that is needed to tackle all these issues. I would also ask the European Commission to invest in a pan-European EU data and registry infrastructure. And there, the EU registries really can function as a platform that link care to research, collect real-world data, and really show the potency of what ERNs can do. And the first deliverable was set, in my opinion, 2 years already, 2 years ago in Bilbao, where the first evaluation after 5 years were presented, where it was clearly seen that the EUs deliver and they have a huge pushing power. I would also encourage these PPPs, these public-private partnerships, but a specific PPP, a public-private patient partnership and incentives that can accelerate therapy development, for instance. And last but not least, I would like them to ensure equitable access, as has been said already, and reduce inequalities across the member states. And then when we talk about competition, the European model that we can be very proud of globally is the fact that we pick up the glove for these very vulnerable patients. So the primary aim was to reduce present health inequalities in the EU, but we can extrapolate that to reduction of any inequality. That's our ethical obligation, and I would be very proud as a European to present this European model globally.
Thanks, Alberto. Ruth, can you comment again on the same question?
I think ring fencing of funding is for the ERNs is really fundamental, because I think many components already have been mentioned. I think this is a structure that is vital to advance the knowledge for rare diseases, the care for rare diseases, and it should not be subject to competitive grants, because let's be honest, competitive grants means 100% do the work, 10% succeed. It's a huge waste of resources that are needed bedside, in the think tanks, in delivering, and not running into unnecessary competition. It does not serve the field. Yeah? So I think when we focus on resources and what needs to be delivered in the field, this is one of the many aspects. There are manifold aspects how you can actually save resources, but this goes ultimately also in the political level. If we talk about registries that are actually at a grade or at a level to be integrated into drug development considerations, for example. They need to be fit for filing. This is a high impact work that needs to be done, but do I run in competition for this? Nobody will pay for these teams, to have them in place. So I think it's just another aspect of infrastructure funding that is needed to make it happen. Sometimes it's simple policy actions that need to be given a thought. I was very proud on Germany, you know my topic that I love. We all talk about registries and they are wonderful, but nobody can explain me why up to date Germany has done this major step, which I think is fantastic, to have only one ethical vote on a registry. Can anybody explain me why all in the other European countries we are lacking behind and we need to go to every and single institution to get on the same registry an ethical vote? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's really crazy. And I think these are hands-on action that we can implement very quickly to have the resources and the manpower on the right place. And there are many more actions that go around this. I think where we need the political level, when we recognize the importance of the ERNs in the cross-border healthcare, then we are also going into another dimension when we talk about ATMPs and all the advances that we see, that currently under the legislation, and Enrique knows me, I talked about S2 years ago, This covers costs for standard of care. It does not cover the cost for access to innovation. So we are talking cross-border healthcare, but we have not implemented the right measures to really give access to innovation. And so all of this makes it very clear why ring-fencing of funding for the ERNs is so important in the next MFF, because indeed and really the need is high, and for all what we are expected to deliver and that we are willing to deliver, we just need this simple thing, as we say, money makes the world go round, because without resources it's difficult to deliver.
Thanks, Ruth. So I think you also delivered an answer to question 4 already, but I like to link it back to question 2, because for me it's also an answer for question 2, how we can maximize actually the impact of the EU Research and Innovation Program by ring-fencing the UN budget and implementing them as respective healthcare and research structures. Wengsang, over to you, but also on question 2, actually.
A few thoughts about that. So maximizing the impact of those research and innovation programs, I think it's important. Just improving the continuity of funding. So I don't mean by that we should continue to fund everything, but we should be able to identify what needs to persist in the environment. And too often, regulatory or registries or some projects stopped after 3 years, 5 years, and we know about the sustainability plan and all that type of things, but really have an in-depth reflection about what continuity of funding means. And then I have a thought on, strengthening the industry participation in collaborative research. I think we don't have a public and a private science. We have different cultures, but the science should actually be the same. And so those partnerships really create trust and create understanding from each other what we need, so they're super helpful. But it's also quite unique. Europe has a very collaborative culture. It's not necessarily the same in other countries or in other places in the world, so I think it's very uniquely European. But that also means, I'm taking an industry head here, it's also mean that in industry you have people on the collaborative project, but we also have people that are very strong into the competition. That's the nature of the beast. So they're not necessarily in the collaborative project. So it's like two sides of the industry. But when the industry asks for efficiency and say, you know, we need to be super efficient with our clinical trials, with the registries, those type of things, the answer is not, oh, we have this collaborative project, and in 5 years, this and that. So they want to see a very strong infrastructure that can deliver very fast. So those two things coexist. And we are very good on the collaborative side and giving, you know, and building some certain things in common. And I totally agree and love that. I'm in many PPPs, so I'm a big fan of that. But there's also this need to be very efficient if you want to be able to attract and collaborate with.
Yeah, thanks for the perspective. So I think this kind of common theme which went through all the discussions, so collaboration, emphasizing the European culture not to be over-competitive, I think needs to be corrected. I think it needs to be a balance of both. So we need, we have to be collaborative, and I think in particular when it comes to infrastructure building, but of course there is a space also for competition. There should be a space for competition. Okay, then let's go to question 3. What concrete initiatives should be prioritized for scaling cross-border healthcare clinical trials and transnational research? And Alberto, can I start with you?
So for scaling cross-border healthcare, I think it's important, first of all, for the Commission and the ERN coordinators to define, I would say, SOPs for the use of the CPMS. Mm-hmm. Because when it starts, we all thought perhaps all patients need to be discussed in the CPMS, but I think it should be targeted and it should also be a stepwise approach. And when this SOP is implemented, you can then you can really implement. I called it 5 years ago already a CPMS first policy. So when a patient makes an application to go to another country for a specific diagnosis or therapeutical condition, the prerequisite should be that there is an advice from the virtual consultation that the patient needs to travel. Because our experience so far is already that almost 80% of the patients within my network get a good diagnosis and therapeutical consultation via the virtual consultation system. So this saves huge costs for healthcare, and it's very, very efficient. Once we have this SOP and the stepwise approach, then I think it's time to really launch cross-border patient referral and care pathways, international ones.
Are you aware of the Lighthouse concept Herodes developed, which are basically European treatment centers for highly specialized healthcare? So for treatments which cannot be provided in every country, but just in a few countries, so that we kind of concentrate the expertise there and let rather the patient travel to these centers than trying to transport the expertise to those countries which have them not yet or won't have them ever. So would that be compatible with the thoughts of developing a care pathway and a referral pathway cross-border?
Yes, I would say yes, at least integrated. So the Lighthouse would be a kind of last resort. Not everything is a last resort, but on a scale, I would definitely make a plea for that, yes.
Okay. All right. Then, Sonata, your thoughts on question 3.
Okay. If I may continue on clinical trial topics, so yeah, for small countries like Lithuania, it's very important to get as much as possible clinical trials in rare disease. So decentralized clinical trials in pan-European network would be perfect for small countries. But also I agree with you, in the era of gene therapy, of cell therapy, which is very important, for rare disease treatment. So then we need to centralize efforts, and centers located somewhere disseminated through the Europe, very specialized centers that should be developed during this period, and direct patients to those centers where the professionals are available, techniques, unique techniques available. But of course, we need to develop those techniques, to work in fundamental level as well. So to have a strong clinical trial network, we need to have a strong network for fundamental research. And for that, we need data sharing, real-world data, open for all Europe. And as example, we always show this initiative on 1 million genome project. But actually, we still don't know how to share data through the Europe. So yeah, we need to elaborate on legal things as well.
Yeah, thanks. So I get back to the point of fundamental research, but I need to comment on we don't know how to share data across Europe. So we know actually, but not in the framework of the 1+ million genomes project. We do it in EDERA, also for diagnostic genomic data and clinical data, but it's not yet in the framework of 1+ million genomes. And
I agree. As a researchers, we truly know and we share the data, but we need a legal basis for it.
Yes, agree. I fully agree. And can you bit further comment on how you think that investment in basic research would also boost what is being done to scale cross-border trials?
I think as deeper we go in understanding the background, the basis of this disease, new ideas can appear, and now we have like a star gene therapy, maybe new ideas.
Yeah, okay, thanks, understood. Okay, then I think we finish with the fourth question, and Ruth has answered question 4 and question 2 together. So Enrique, that leaves you for the last question. Can you comment on how to ring-fence funding for EURENS, scale up cross-border healthcare, clinical trials, and translational research?
I will try. So first, just to set up a bit this scene. So I will say that as a general thinking, good research will need a solid, strong healthcare organization. As we are having in all member states, we are having hospitals, primary healthcare centers. That's not a competitive thing. It's a structure you will need. So then that should be addressed from this perspective. And of course, good care needs also a strong research, because otherwise you will not have the capacity, the tools, the treatment for doing that. So both things are related, but we'll need different solutions. So as an example, the networks is the structure. And for the networks, what type of funding we can expect, by instance, from the MFF? The MFF, it's quite complicated. So there are many elements, but I will say that to simplify, we have two main tools related with our business here, which are the European Competitiveness Fund and the Horizon Europe. So in the European Competitiveness Fund, we are in a nice window, they call that window, with some neighbors, which are agriculture, bioeconomy, and biotech. So, and the budget that is foreseen for this window, it's just for the whole window. So there is no distribution. And so far, we have not been able to advance in that. So some ideas were to have separate windows, to divorce from the other neighbors. But I have the impression that that's not the most accepted idea, not only by the Commission, but also from the perspective of the member states. Because as you can imagine, healthcare and ministries of health are, in this case, not the main drivers. As in the case of the Commission of the European Union, I will say. So of course, and that's just between us, not to be web streamed. I am sure that DG Santé or Didiera, they are concerned about this structure. They cannot say it, of course. But we are losing the visibility of health in that. And that's a problem. And then we have the horizon part, which is fundamental for all the things that we have been discussing today, and you are involved, which is the research part. I will say that I am optimistic from the point of view of the money that will be put to develop innovation, and rare diseases is poor innovation. Treatment, diagnostics. So I don't expect to have too many problems with the amount of money devoted. The problem is how that will be assigned, to what, and how that will be linked with the other part of the equation, because we will have the window of the competitiveness fund and the window coming from Pillar 2 of the Horizon Europe, and according to the structure they have developed, that should be aligned, which is very good, so that we, in theory, we start with zero research to the last stage of the access to medicines, organization of healthcare, etc. In theory, it's a good idea. The problem is that we don't know how that will be governance. Because if we are in the current setup, there is no specific funding, but also not a specific program. Because now we have the main political discussion is about the new regulations. There are 2 regulations, but each of these regulations will have programs, as we know, the EU for Health, that will, after this stage, that will imply having specific programs, multi-annual programs, and that will, in these programs, is where we will have the granularity, where we will have, by instance, how the networks will be financed, how a concrete research or line of research will be financed. Now it's not the moment of this discussion. Now we are discussing the basics, how health in total will be considered. And we need a specific programs, let's say a program, a chapter in a program, whatever you will call it, but something specific with also a specific governance, so that the decision makers proposing what should be in the program or in the chapter, and the member state representative analyzing if that should be the right thing, and also the input from all the experts should be specific. Now we don't have that. It's not specific. And we have to ensure that that's included in the wording. You know that these nice legal wording are very tricky, and Vytenis knows that very well. But it's very important to put the keywords there. So then, now this is the main goal, and I think that with the Parliament, with the view of the Parliament and the Member State, we should agree on something that is giving us at least the ring fencing for health. For health. Now, I would say, will be impossible to ring fence at this stage of the discussion European reference networks or rare diseases. We should be happy if the words are appearing. Rare diseases or European reference networks. But at this stage, that will be the main goal.
Okay, thanks. So it's a journey, and for now it's health, which needs to be introduced, and once that is secured, then we can move to discussing rare diseases and European reference networks. Okay, thank you. Can you move back to the slide with the priorities? Yeah, thanks. So we're wrapping up the discussion, and we do one final round of inputs. So from the discussions, but also from reading the priorities and the explanation, what is the one point you would emphasize, or the one point you would like to be added to the priorities as they stand? So you can pick either of them, or both if you want, but just stick to one point. And I start with you, Alberto.
That's difficult.
Can you take the mic, please? Yeah, thank you.
It's difficult. It's all about giving correct merit to the network and to our and to ourselves. And then I would say the uniqueness, the European, the uniqueness of the ERNs as a unique European model for global healthcare for complex condition, and that they deliver. So we deliver, and it is a unique model.
Okay, thank you. Sang.
Yeah, I will say something that's not on your... comes also a bit from the reflection from the Together for Rare project we've been involved into that. And I think for the ERNs, to all the structural funding and all that is extremely important. But they should also be allowed to fund themselves through their activities and engagement with the clinical research with industry. Those type of external points are also sources, should also be sources of revenues for them.
Okay, thank you. Ruth.
Well, I think one cannot do without the other, because I think the action plan is really manifesting a clear goal, a vision, a mission, and then ring fencing follows. Yeah, so this is an inherent logic, and it needs to go together.
Okay, thank you. Enrique.
I agree with Ruth. Now it's the moment to demonstrate, to repeat in all the fora what you have produced. Because that's the value that should be taken into account. And now it's very difficult to keep the attention of the decision makers because they are worried by many other different things. So you have to insist and to raise this issue at national level, at commission level, at parliament level, continuously is the only way.
Okay, thanks. Sonata.
And repeat all the time that it's patient-oriented. It's for the patient.
Okay, thank you. So with that, I thank you for the discussion. I thank you for the attention. I need to apologize because I didn't open up to the audience, but I was really caught in the discussion, and I think it was a really interesting discussion. So thank you. Okay, and I think we just do that.
Dear like-minded friends, I think Enrique, we are the champions, my friend. Yes, we are. Why? Because Enrique told, yeah, I am on website, on website. And Commissioner responded to Enrique. Let me quote. Ursula von der Leyen, presenting 2026 working program at the Parliament, in the Parliament. Europe's competitiveness and security is first and foremost about people, their jobs, families, and livelihoods, to ensure that we have the necessary tools of mechanisms to respond quickly to possible emergency health threats. To deliver on this ambition, the EU must equip itself with a modern, flexible, and well-funded budget. Okay? It's in line with us. Okay, and of course she proposed, Europe has shown time and again that it can adapt, act quickly, and stand united. I couldn't agree more. Then Ekaterina Zakharieva on 25th of September, please listen, she told in Sant Committee, openly, it's open statements. In short, life science are Europeans' lifeline. The life science strategy is our response from research through market access to uptake. Research, market uptake to uptake. They are backed by 10 billion euros annually under current budget. And in the next MFF, I would say health is one of the biggest winners as well. Do you understand? I agree. And let's go. First, on research. We are proposing a new clinical research investment plan. We will encourage multi-country trials. We will also support access to our excellent infrastructure. And here, we are not starting from the scratch. We will accelerate the market journey of our life science startups. Do you agree? I agree. And let's go to the third statement. Oliver Valheri, the same, 25th of September. If we want a new health ecosystem, we need to start with basics, and basics are research. Europe is serious about investing in health research, but the next MFF cannot follow the same structure as before. If we want to lead in health and deliver quicker and better results to patients, we need funding instruments that match our ambitions. Applaud. Then, if we integrate health innovation across sectors, bringing together developers and users, pharmaceuticals, medical devices, AI and big data, we can unlock a brand of new wave of therapies, technologies, and care models that respond to patients' personalized needs, for sure. And okay, going then, my long-term goal is clear: to move from fragmented efforts to one comprehensive health ecosystem, innovative, preventive, and resilient. And of course, so when you say that we need 20 or to 36 billion euros to allocate, we have more than that. In the health budget, we have 22.6 billion, as I said, and in the horizon only, we have set aside 20 only for health billions. This is 42.6 billion. So the health sector is a big winner for the next MFF. We have the budget. Let's do. Let's ring fence. Let's say in our declaration that we are in line with those officially made statements. You know, if I was commissioner, I know what does it mean to promise. If you promised openly, then you will be under permanent pressing, and everyone can ask you, oh, commissioner, do you promise? Where are your promises? Now, their promises are in our hands. And we need now to move forward. And in this one first day was really excellent, brilliant. Thanks, Ruth. Thanks, Holm. You did excellent job. And this morning also we heard about excellent presentation about fifth freedom, about possibilities to unite, to act, align, and accelerate. And of course, we need to have that in our hands. We need to move forward knowing what we can achieve. Of course, we can raise questions. First, we will reignite Europe's clinical innovations. We expect the upcoming General Pharmaceutical Package and Biotech Act to deliver fast-track approval pathways for clinical trials, slashing timelines to disproportionate harm patients, and so on. Second, we will establish equitable infrastructure in every member state. No patient should be left behind because of their postcode. Just as Europe united against cancer, we will now build a new consortium, which is so important in our next achievements, to see how can we develop comprehensive rare disease infrastructure clusters. And I can tell you, may you remember, in time when François Mitterrand was sick with prostate cancer, he proposed to have Europe against cancer. It means it would be good to now to calculate how many of our heads of state or governments to be affected with some. And then it would be good to see how they can raise on council level that yes, European health ecosystem should be built. I count on this. Thanks a lot. I am very happy with this, our first day.
We are done. We are done.
I think that after such a message, I mean, I think Vytenis that it is impossible, for us to say nothing but thank you, because I mean, for the passion, for the commitment, and for the leadership, and we as coordinators are counting on you.
Yes, we are the winners. We are the champions.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, tomorrow we have to put on the champion by the Queen, and this is absolutely fantastic. But I think that really, this is a golden moment, and today it's the first of 3 days, which are really important, crucial. As also we were speaking with Alberto about that. It is really the moment to gain consciousness about the power of Europe. Because today, Enrico Piccinini was saying one important thing. In Europe, it is not expensive to make research, and it is not expensive to make clinical trials. It is a concept which is contaminated by a lot of, as we said, fragmentation, difference, and whatever. So we need really to take the consciousness that we are in a moment where someone is working on our favor, as Enrico Letta was saying, so the guy with blonde hairs, and that is destroying the vaccination and whatever. So they are working on our favor, and we need really to take the consciousness that we have the skills, we have the year-ends, we have the expertise, we have ideas, we have the best tradition of research, because research started in Europe. So at this point, why we should continue, to beat ourselves, telling that we are not able, that we have. It's only a matter of doing what you said. If there is really the need, as there is, to help the rare disease patients, it is an emergency. We know how to behave in an emergency. And let's do that, let's press that. We need the fund, okay, let's speak about a guaranteed fund for the ERS, but for health. And this is really the message that I think we thank you for being so strong, so patient, and so incredibly powerful.
We have 2 days now, additionally. Let's move. Let's see the second day and third day it will be in Parliament. Yes. And then we'll sign declaration, and then we will elaborate our political roadmap. How can we be the winners?
Exactly. Perfect. Thank you very much. And let's meet tomorrow, 9 o'clock, same channel. Okay?